Thank you, conference, and thank you to everybody who's participated in this morning's debate. Thanks also to my fantastic shadow Brexit team, Jenny Chapman, Paul Blomfield, Matt Pennycook, Diane Hayter, Karen Smith, Emma Hardy and Jess Morden. Believe you me, they could have chosen easier jobs over the last year. And what a year it's been. Article 50 triggered. A snap general election. That was supposed to have been a coronation. But it's left us with a broken government. Too weak to govern. Too divided to negotiate Brexit. Constructive ambiguity is now their official policy. It's easy to laugh. It would be funny if it were not so tragic. Britain's place in the world is at stake. People's jobs are at stake. People's mortgages are at stake. People's futures are at stake. So who are the authors of this Tory tragedy? First, David Cameron, who recklessly gambled this country because he couldn't hold his party together. Then Boris Johnson, standing in front of his red bus with a lie on the side, a false promise of £350 million a week to our NHS. Ruthless about his own ambition, reckless about our country. Now Theresa May, robotically marching our country to an extreme Brexit, focused on her own survival rather than national interest. Conference, maybe the Tories can afford this disastrous approach to Brexit. Maybe the Tories would benefit from a Brexit of deregulation. But you know, and I know, that for millions of working people, they cannot afford that Brexit. Whether you're in the front seat with Theresa May or the back seat with Boris Johnson, there is nothing patriotic about joyriding our economy off a cliff. Conference, this has got to stop. It's time for a different approach. So let me share with you Labour's approach. An approach which is both democratically legitimate and economically sensible, that respects the referendum result and puts jobs and the economy first. An approach rooted in our core values. Values that bind us together. Labour values. Internationalism. We have always been an internationalist party, reaching out to Europe and to the rest of the world, not turning in on ourselves. That's why we campaign for unilateral protection of EU citizens in this country, because of our internationalism, and why we want protection of our citizens in Europe. Values of cooperation and solidarity, and a simple belief that we achieve more together than we do alone. our unflinching commitment to the protection of human rights, to the rule of law, to the protection of rights at work, and to the protection of our environment. Simple words: fairness, equality, social justice, in our economy and in our society. As we exit the EU, this is not the time to abandon those values. On the contrary, those values should drive everything that we do as we enter these uncertain times. Conference, that's why, over the summer, Labour reached an agreed position that transitional arrangements on the same basic terms as we currently have with the EU are in the national interest. Let me be clear. For Labour, that means during the transitional period, we would remain within a customs union with the EU and within the single market. The government, on the other hand, have spent the summer squabbling in public. So dysfunctional had it all got by last week that the Prime Minister took flight to Florence. Only when she got there to adopt and follow our position on transitional arrangements. Conference, let's see whether that survives contact with Tory party conference next week. But let's not be fooled by what the Prime Minister said in Florence. All she's done is to delay the cliff edge. All her ideological red lines remain. She still prioritises arbitrary immigration targets over jobs and the economy. She has no answer to fundamental questions in Northern Ireland, and she still insists, despite all of the warnings, that no deal is a viable option. It most certainly is not. Conference, Labour rejects that approach. If we were in government, when we are in government, we will build a new progressive partnership with the EU. We will negotiate a deal that ensures continued cooperation and collaboration in all fields with our EU partners. And a deal that retains the benefits of the customs union and the single market. Options for achieving that end should not be swept off the table. Subject, of course, to negotiations, remaining in a form of customs union with the EU is a possible end destination for Labour. We are also flexible as to whether the benefits of the single market are best retained by negotiating a new single market relationship or by working up from a bespoke trade deal. The outcome is what matters. No rash, ideological red lines preventing a sensible deal. No fantastical blue sky proposals. A pragmatic approach. Labour are now the grown-ups in the room. And Conference, I tell you this, we stand ready to take charge of these negotiations, not acting for narrow political gain, but in the national interest. Conference, the way the Tories are handling Brexit tells you a lot about their competence, or perhaps I should say incompetence, but it also tells you about their character, about their dogmatic disregard of the national interest, about their sheer sense of entitlement, about their post-imperial delusions. About their willingness to put other people's jobs at risk. Our country today is so much better than our government. This country is yearning for change. Theresa May and whoever replaces her cannot deliver that change. The old politics and the Tory old guard have had their day. We need a transformative Labour government. Not just to break the impasse in Brexit negotiations and to deliver a progressive partnership with the EU, vital though that is, but to tackle the wider injustices and inequalities we see all around us. To give hope that our society, our public services, and our economy do not have to be like that. That we can build a better, fairer, and more inclusive Britain. That's why I came into politics. That's why you're in this room today. That's why Jeremy has been able to mobilise 600,000 members and to inspire the support of over 12 million people. It's also why the clock is ticking for this Prime Minister and this government. Conference, we've come a long way in the last year. We've come a long way. Now is the time for us to lead, to bring a divided country back together, to mend our broken politics. This is Labour's opportunity. This is Labour's responsibility. And working together, this can be Labour's achievement, delivering a government for the many and not for the few. Thank you very much, Conference.